I followed my heart outside my marriage, and now my husband is acting like I destroyed everything posted by you. Not sorry, Rub 83. I'm posting this because I feel like my side of the story has been completely erased, and I don't recognize myself in the way people talk about what happened. I know cheating is an easy thing to judge from the outside, but life isn't neat, and neither are relationships, and I'm exhausted from being treated like I decided to ruin my own life on a whim. I'm 32. I was married to Mark for 6 years. We met young, idealistic, figuring out what we wanted in life. Mark was stable in every way I thought mattered. Steady job, calm presence, no chaos. I'd grown up in a household where emotions ran hot, and Mark felt like peace. We built a life together. Moved in, saved money, got engaged, had a small wedding that everyone called mature and classy. People said we were doing everything right. At first, I believed that too. The early years were good. Not passionate in a cinematic sense, but stable, comforting. We laughed, traveled a little, talked about the future. But slowly, imperceptibly, things shifted. Our conversations became logistical. Affection became habitual. Sex wasn't bad. It was just predictable. Same gestures, same reassurances, same assumption that love was automatic. Mark would tell me he loved me every day, but eventually it felt rehearsed. He never asked how I was feeling unless I was visibly upset. He never seemed curious about who I was becoming. He assumed that because we weren't fighting, everything was fine. I tried to bring things up gently. Suggested trips, new hobbies, therapy casually. He always nodded, said we should, or that could be good. Nothing ever changed. Eventually, I stopped asking because I felt needy for wanting more than stability. I didn't tell him I was unhappy because it felt selfish. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but I felt like I was disappearing. About a year before everything exploded, I joined a new gym. Something just for me. Something small to feel like an individual again. That's where I met Ryan. Ryan was the opposite of Mark in every way.
Loud, flashy,
Confident in a way that made people watch. He drove a matte black sports car, expensive clothes, flirted constantly. He noticed me immediately. At first, I brushed him off. I was married, but he kept complimenting me. Not just my body, my energy, my presence. He asked questions. Listened. When I mentioned my husband, he smirked and said, "Yeah, I figured." That comment stuck. We talked more over weeks. Between sets, after workouts, eventually texting. At first it was innocent, memes, jokes, casual gym talk. Then it became personal. He asked about dreams, fulfillment, if I felt happy. Mark hadn't asked me those questions in years. I told myself it wasn't cheating, because nothing physical had happened. Emotionally, though, I was already leaning on Ryan more than Mark. The night it crossed the line, he invited me out. I told Mark I was going to meet friends. The lie slid out easily, and that scared me, but I pushed the feeling down. Ryan picked me up in his flashy car. Loud music, fast driving. Compliments layered over each other, until I felt dizzy. He kept telling me how beautiful I was, how Mark didn't notice me, how I deserved someone who truly wanted me. When we ended up alone, it felt unreal, like stepping into a version of myself I hadn't allowed to exist in years. When it happened, I didn't feel like a betrayer. I felt awake. Afterward, I didn't feel shame. I felt clarity. I told myself it wasn't about sex. It was about finally being seen. I went home to Mark, watched him sleep, and felt resentment instead of guilt. He didn't know me anymore. Maybe he never had. The weeks after were messy. I became distant, defensive, protective of my phone. Mark noticed. He asked if something was wrong. I told him he was being insecure and controlling. Then one night, exhausted and distracted, I said Ryan's name instead of Mark's. The next morning, Mark confronted me, asked if I was cheating. I was honest. I told him yes, and I explained why. I told him I felt unseen, lonely, emotionally neglected. I told him I didn't do it to hurt him, but because I felt like I was fading away. He asked if I felt guilty. I said no. Guilt implies wrongdoing. I don't believe choosing myself is wrong. He asked if I would stop seeing Ryan. I said no. Ultimatums are toxic. Ending something wouldn't fix what was broken. That was the moment our marriage ended. Mark didn't yell. He didn't rage. He withdrew. A month later, he told me he had spoken to a lawyer. I begged him to try counseling. He said it wasn't just the affair, it was my refusal to take responsibility. My friends rallied around me. They told me I was brave and empowered. Lena, my best friend of 10 years, told me I was choosing myself for the first time. Ryan said Mark was weak. But once Mark moved out, Ryan changed. He became controlling, jealous, critical. Mocked my clothes, my friends, my emotions. Once, during an argument, he grabbed my wrist and said I was too sensitive. That scared me. When I tried to pull away, he laughed and said, "You left your husband for me. Don't act like you're better than this." I ended things with him shortly after. By then, my marriage was already beyond saving. Mark finalized the divorce 8 months after separating. He didn't contest it. He didn't fight. He looked relieved. That hurt more than anything. Lena stayed close. Checked on me constantly. Reassured me. Told me I'd land on my feet. She even said she'd checked in on Mark occasionally, just to keep things civil. I trusted her completely. About a year after the divorce, I found out through social media that Mark was engaged. To Lena. I felt physically sick. I confronted her. She cried and said she never planned for this to happen. But she explained. She had been through a messy, emotionally manipulative breakup before my divorce. Spent months in therapy, rebuilding self-esteem, learning to trust herself again. She called it her healing period. During that time, while she was helping me navigate my heartbreak, she had reconnected with Mark. First casually, then more intentionally. She said they bonded over mutual vulnerability, shared understanding, and a sense of safety neither had felt in years. She claimed emotions grew naturally, slowly, and that she didn't step in until months after the divorce. It sounded reasonable in theory, a woman connecting with someone after a period of trauma. But in practice, it crushed me. Lena, my best friend, had been the person I trusted most. And while I was spiraling, she was quietly stepping into my life and taking what I thought was mine. Mark never reached out.
He blocked me.
A few months later, they got married.
Small ceremony.
People said they looked happy. After that, my life quietly unraveled. I had to move out of my apartment, rent a smaller place far from the life I had. Work suffered. Friends drifted away. Dating was impossible. Men either wanted casual or recoiled when they heard my history. Then I saw the baby. I didn't find out directly.
I saw a photo online.
Lena holding a newborn. Mark beside her, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. I spiraled. I couldn't sleep. Replayed everything. Compared timelines obsessively. Imagined their life together. Imagined what could have been mine. And I still can't make sense of it. Edit. I need to make this crystal clear because people keep pretending Mark was flawless. He wasn't. He was emotionally complacent.
Didn't see me fading. Didn't fight for me.
Went straight to a lawyer instead of asking why I was hurting. And yes, maybe I handled things wrong, but I refused to accept full blame for a marriage that took 2 people to fail. I didn't wake up wanting to destroy my life. I made one decision in a moment of emotional starvation, and everything after snowballed beyond my control. And yet somehow, Mark moved on, built a family, and is publicly celebrated as strong and mature. Lena gained a husband and a home while I lost mine. Ryan is gone. My friends have vanished. I can't sleep. I can't focus. I can't feel like myself. I did what I thought was brave. I listened to my heart.
I chose myself.
And the universe rewarded everyone else instead. I still don't know how this is fair, and I still don't know how I'm the villain in my own story.